Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari and today I'll be talking about a very common misconception, confusion we have about justice and evil in the world and the presence of God, and how can there be a loving God and so much evil. And this question I got from a student of mine from my Bhagavad-gita course, which I really liked, and the question was, do rapists and murderers have souls? I mean, how is that working, right? So we're going to be talking about justice, divine justice, law of karma in this video. So if you think this kind of topic is interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe right now. It really helps the channel and would really help extra if you can share this video with other like-minded friends of yours. So here we go. How does this work? So yoga philosophy, Bhagavad-gita, yoga philosophy has the very best explanation. Actually, in all fairness, the only complete explanation on is called theodicy, the justice of God, theo, God. So it's the only system because honestly, that part of God being all-powerful and all-knowing and there being evil never was worked out in the Jewish, Christian, Muslim tradition. Really, it was they've been having debates on it for thousands of years. It basically doesn't work. A lot of top people have given up their faith because of this point. I mean, from my observation, I think one of the leading causes of atheism in the world is this point, this topic of today's video. That's why it's so important. This one point has led millions of people to just give up on spirituality, give up on God completely, because they just can't put the pieces together. I mean, how can God allow rapists and murderers, and then we always think of children because they're so they look so like children, and being abused and hurt, and war, it's ridiculous, war, so much death and destruction. How can God allow for these things, and diseases, right? Horrible diseases of every kind happening to people who seem so nice, and it's happened to people, maybe, hopefully not, but you've seen family members dying of horrible diseases. How can this possibly fit in? How can there possibly be a God? And these things happening. So this is blowing away people's minds and making them atheists. But in Bhagavad-gita and yoga philosophy, we do have a perfectly clear explanation. And the explanation starts with a key point, which is why, the Abrahamic traditions fail on this point, which is the understanding of the eternity of the soul. I mean, that's really important, because once you talk about an eternal soul, which is, of course, migrating from one body to the next, so you have reincarnation. This is a key point, because if you don't have reincarnation, then you're just off to a terrible start. I mean, without reincarnation, it's what in the world is God thinking, right? It's just you just can't make sense of it. And in fact, you can't. You can ignore it. You can not worry about it. But basically, you can't make sense of it if you really put your mind on it. It's okay, something's wrong here. It would be very wrong. Because how can some child, be born in a horrible, some children are actually literally thrown into garbage as they're born. Others are, just born and abused and thrown, I don't want to go, I don't want to depress anyone thinking about these things, but so horrific things happen. And even when there is a loving family, but it's such a horrific situation, right? So people are, born with horrible defects and horrible challenges and in horrible countries. And so, starving. So how could that possibly make sense? It wouldn't make any sense. But once you understand the concept of reincarnation, and then of course, together with that concept, you have the concept of karma. So then you have, wait a second, so what's happening is what's defining the material situation of any embodied being, human or otherwise, is actually not a random thing, not just some, God just being, just picking and choosing or throwing a dice. It's not chance. It's not God being mean or, picking sides, but actually it's a thorough, just, and this is the key word, just from justice, a just system where actions have reactions, which actually is, we all accept, right? I mean, I think all of us here, if somebody does something really bad, nobody wants like nothing to happen to the person, right? Or if somebody's really good, you also don't want nothing to have, like nothing at all, no recognition, no benefit. It's just natural, right? If you just feel it's like completely natural that you expect and want good things to come to people who do good things. And, you kind of want some sort of punishment or adjustment or something with people who do bad things, so they are aware at least that there's a bad thing, so they can stop doing the bad things, right? But you want something. You want to just, like the idea of somebody just does horrible things and nothing happens is like it just goes against your grain, right? It's just weird for everyone, I think, in any culture, in any time of civilization. I don't think did we think that was okay. I mean, from my studies, even back when, back in the hunter-gatherer days, they had very strict systems. Like if you don't pull your weight in the group, it's going to be bad for you. We're going to kick you out and then you're going to starve because you're going to be on your own. So like even from the beginning, there was like a strong feeling that, look, we have to have a certain code of behavior and actions. We have to agree on what to do and what you can't do, so that's a very deeply rooted concept. So there you have this concept, you have this law of karma. Because when you do something bad, then what's really happening? So what's behind this? What's behind the law of karma and reincarnation? Well, yoga philosophy says that we are eternal souls, and as souls we have something called free will. So it's a very key point. Without free will, the whole system falls apart. It makes no sense. Because again, if you don't have free will, then what is God doing? Like, what is going on? Like, how can there be a God without free will? Because then he's like, what? If I can't choose anyway, then what's the point of anything, right? Why am I going through this? It wouldn't make any sense. So we have free will. And it's a point that's emphasized in the Bhagavad-gita and other holy texts. For example, in Bhagavad-gita and also Uddhava-gita, you might not have heard of it, but it's a very important text as well with Krishna's last instructions before he left the world. But in both texts, at the very end, after he's been explaining yoga and the science, spiritual science, to Arjuna and Uddhava respectively, at the very end he says, do you understand? Do you want me to explain anything else? And famously in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna at the end says, and now Arjuna, you do whatever you think is best. It's like an amazing, like here's God like talking directly to Arjuna, But at the end he says, okay, now if you have any questions, I'll answer them, but now do whatever you think is best. So free will is a big thing in the yoga philosophy, because it has to be a big thing. So we have free will. Because we have free will, therefore, we have the choice to do the wrong thing, and that's where evil comes in. So evil is a shadow of the pure light of goodness, of spirituality, of God. As we are souls, we are, not co-creators in the modern sense of like, oh yeah, I'm going to like imagine, BMWs and mansions and it's going to happen because I can co-create. Not in that sense, because that's a bit childish, but in the sense that we do actually have some, liberty, right? Like, for example, right now, I can't just say, oh, I want to start flying, sprout wings and go flying. But, I can get a plane or whatever. But, so I have some limitations, right? I have lots of limitations. So we have tons of limitations, right? We can't just decide that, oh, I just want to be younger again. I want to sing, with a divine voice. We can't just decide everything. But we have some choices, right? And you can always do the right thing and the wrong thing. That all of us can do all the time, right? You always have the choice to do the worst thing and the best thing. There's like a whole range of choices between the worst thing and the best thing. They're always there. So this is free will. And as we misuse our free will, that's when we do bad things. That's where evil comes in. So the more you misuse your free will, the more evil you produce. Now, the way the system makes sense is that because of the law of karma, so now I do bad things, so I create a need to experience bad things so I can learn why they're bad. It's like putting a mirror in front of you, right? The law of karma puts a mirror in front of you and says, look, this is what you're doing. It's not nice. And you can see it, experience it, the other side of it. So you can see that it's not nice, and maybe that will teach you not to do it. I mean, if you can't figure it out just by thinking about it in wisdom, why don't you just go through it and then see how bad it is? And then maybe you don't want to do it anymore. That's the idea of karma. Simple idea, simple educational technique. It actually works, right? We use it all the time. So the idea is, okay, I've misused my free will, so then I get this credit, this need actually, for a similarly bad experience, a suffering similar to the suffering that I created, so I can see how bad that is, and then in the future learn from it and choose the good option and not the bad options. So when somebody wants to misuse their free will to do bad, the law of karma protects the world by only letting them do bad things to those people who have previously done bad things and now require that bad experience to learn from it. And that's why, and since we're talking about a multi-life system, that's why you can have, perfectly innocent, like people who are in this incarnation have a clean slate. Maybe they're just children, just so young. It's like they haven't even had a chance to do anything bad, and something bad happens to them. Well, because they're not really children. Nobody's really a child. I mean, I'm not a man, you're not a woman, you're not a child, because we're all actually eternal souls. We're not even human. We're eternal souls. We're just incarnating in a human body, and now this human body has aged so much, so I'm not a child anymore, But it's all material on the surface, but internally I'm an eternal soul, just like every other living being in the world. So the baby is an eternal soul, just as you are an eternal soul, just as the rapist and the murderer is also an eternal soul. So yes, rapists and murderers are souls as well. Not only that, yoga philosophy teaches that we have the presence of God. So even rapists and murderers have the presence of God in them. Which is a weird thing to think about it, but that's why in yoga it's so emphasized that you should see God in everyone. Krishna says that in Bhagavad-gita, you'll see that in Uddhava-gita and other texts. You should see God in including people who are currently misusing their free will and are evil, nasty, mean people. Even they are eternal souls, and even in their bodies is the presence of God. So we should, that's why it's a great line. I love that line, hate the sin, not the sinner. Because nobody's really like a sinner, or, everybody's just a pure eternal soul. They just might be stuck in a rut of doing bad decisions, of misusing their free will. And because of that, in the future, they're going to be victims, unless they learn about it. Two things can happen in the future. If you misuse your free will, there are two options ahead of you. One is you come to your senses. It's called Jnana Yoga. You come to your sense, and that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita chapter 4, Jnana Yoga burns your karma like a fire burns a log to ashes. Because you come to your senses, you're like, okay, oh, whoa, I spend my whole life, but I can see that's not, I can't do that anymore. I can't lie, I can't cheat, I can't steal, I can't kill. Now I understand, now I've heard from somebody wiser, I've stopped to think about it. Now I truly understand that I should not do these things. It's a Christian word. I repent. In Christianity, Jesus was really like push that, like, repent. The repent is, okay, you messed up in the past, repent. Just stop and, whoa, okay, that was wrong. I am not doing it again. Not repent and then you start doing it again. That's no good. That's useless. But really, like, just repent and then don't do it again. You have to remember that part. So, like, seriously, so that means you seriously understand it's wrong. You're like incapable of doing it again because you seriously understand it's wrong. So that's one option, and then that's it. You're free. You don't have to you don't have to pay for that karma anymore. Your karma is burnt by the process of Jnana Yoga. That's Jnana Yoga. Or if you don't do that, then yes, you're going to have to go through it. Like if you're being thick about it, if you're not thinking about it, you're not taking it seriously, you're just being a jerk. So then, okay, well, you have to go through the system then. And that means that in the future, when somebody wants to misuse their free will to do something bad, that person is going to be in the receiving end of the misuse of free will. And that's why you have this, evil in the world. It's actually just people experiencing the other side of their misuse of free will. You see? So then it makes sense. And then it's just like a big learning education. It's just like a big learning process. And everybody's, you have your chance to learn, again, the wise way by thinking about it and, repenting, or you have the harsh way, just going through it until you get it. And if you don't get it, you go through it again because, hey, you're an eternal soul and you can reincarnate as many times as you need, thousands, millions of times, no problem. You keep reincarnating until you figure it out. So that's the idea. So that's how you can have evil in the world with an all-loving, all-knowing, all-powerful God who's just allowing us to exercise our free will, because otherwise our existence wouldn't even make sense. I mean, if we couldn't exercise our free will, say, no, God should come in and make everybody be nice, that makes no sense. Because then we're robots, then we're programs, we're apps. We're not people anymore. I'm just a program, a subroutine. But I'm not even in the Matrix. Even in the Matrix, the programs start having free will. Because otherwise it's nothing. It's not life. It's not life if you don't have free will. It means nothing that you're a person, that you're a soul, if you don't have free will. It means nothing. If you stop and think about it, you'll see. It really means nothing. Because then we're just silly programs, we're just like robots. It just means nothing. You just kill completely personhood, individuality, existence. It just becomes meaningless if you don't have free will. So God allows for free will, obviously, because that's who we are. And in this system of free will, then this all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving God allows for us to exercise the free will within this very perfectly fair system of the law of karma over, numberless lifetimes and whatever needed for you to misuse your free will and then experience it and learn from it and then gradually, work your way towards liberation, graduation. I joke around. So, we can all just graduate in this lifetime by taking the path of yoga, by seeking spiritual liberation, and then, we're free from this nonsense. We're free from all evil, because evil only exists in this school of learning, this existential school, where we're still figuring things out and haven't really understood our true, perfect spiritual nature. So that's it. Let me know if you understood. If there are any questions, please leave your comments below. And again, don't forget to subscribe, and share. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day with lots of peace and lots of love.